The wind howled outside as icy flakes pelted the windowpane. Emily Carter stood by the heater, clutching a mug of cocoa, watching the snowstorm grow stronger. Living alone in her small cottage on the edge of town, she was used to quiet nights like this. But that evening, something felt different, the kind of eerie stillness that makes you pause and listen. Then she heard it, a faint knock at the door. She hesitated. It was nearly midnight, and no one in their right mind would be out in weather like this. The knock came again, weaker this time. Against her better judgment, Emily grabbed her coat and opened the door. There, shivering violently on her porch, stood a woman wrapped in a tattered blanket. Her lips were blue, her hands raw from the cold. Please," the woman stammered, "I just need a place to warm up." Without another thought, Emily ushered her in. "Come in, quick." The woman nearly collapsed as she crossed the threshold. Emily helped her to the couch and hurried to bring dry clothes, blankets, and a steaming cup of tea. As the woman warmed up, color slowly returned to her face. "What's your name?" Emily asked softly. The woman hesitated. "Lena," she whispered. "Thank you. I didn't think anyone would answer their door tonight." Emily smiled faintly. "No one should freeze out there. You can stay here as long as you need." Lena looked around the cozy little house, the flickering fireplace, the faded photos of Emily's late parents, the knitted blankets draped over every chair. "You live alone?" she asked. "Yeah, just me and the memories," Emily replied with a laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes. The two women talked late into the night. Lena didn't share much about her past, just that she'd had a run of bad luck, and lost her job, her apartment, and her way. Emily didn't pry. She'd learned that sometimes kindness meant giving without asking. By morning, the snow had stopped. The world outside was white and blindingly bright. Emily woke to the smell of coffee. Lena stood by the stove, humming softly as she poured 2 cups. "I hope you don't mind," she said. "You helped me. Let me at least make breakfast." Emily smiled. "Mind, I could get used to this." They ate together, chatting like old friends. Before leaving, Lena insisted on sweeping the porch and stacking the firewood. "You've done enough," Emily said, laughing, but Lena only smiled mysteriously. Just returning the favor. When she finally left, she hugged Emily tightly. "You have no idea what this means," she said. "You might have saved my life." Then she disappeared down the road, leaving nothing but footprints in the snow. That afternoon, Emily sat by the window, staring out at the endless white. A strange emptiness settled over her. She'd grown fond of Lena in just one night. There was something about her, something dignified beneath the worn clothes and weary eyes. By evening, the quiet returned. Emily went to bed early, unaware that the next day would turn her world upside down. The knock came again, but this time, it was firm and deliberate. Emily opened the door to find a man in a dark coat, his shoes spotless despite the slush outside. Behind him stood a sleek black car. "Ms. Emily Carter?" he asked. "Yes." He handed her a white envelope sealed with a gold crest. "My employer wishes to thank you personally for your kindness last night." Emily blinked. "My kindness?" The man smiled. "You gave shelter to a woman during the storm, a woman most people would have turned away." Before she could respond, the car door opened, and out stepped Lena. But she didn't look like the same woman. Gone were the ragged clothes and trembling hands. She wore a tailored coat, her hair neatly styled, a calm confidence in her posture. Emily's mouth fell open. "Lena," the woman smiled warmly. "Actually, my full name is Elena Ross. You might recognize it." Emily gasped. Elena Ross, founder of Ross Industries. The billionaire philanthropist who'd built hospitals, schools, and shelters across the country. Her face was on the news, in magazines, even on billboards downtown. Emily stammered. I didn't. You couldn't have known," Elena said gently. "I've been traveling incognito these past months, seeing how ordinary people treat those who have nothing. I was cold, hungry, and I wanted to understand humanity beyond boardrooms and donations." Emily's heart pounded. "And you showed up at my door?" Elena nodded. "You didn't hesitate. You didn't ask who I was or what I could give you. You just helped." She smiled, her eyes glistening. "That kind of kindness deserves to be honored." Elena gestured to the man beside her, who handed Emily a folder. Inside was a deed to a new home. Not a small cottage, but a 2-story house in the heart of town, fully paid for. There was also a check, enough money to clear her debts and start fresh. "I can't accept this," Emily said, her voice trembling. "You already have," Elena replied. You gave me something no money could buy, faith in people. Now let me give you something in return. Tears welled in Emily's eyes. She tried to speak but couldn't. Elena stepped forward and hugged her. The world needs more people like you, she whispered. Before leaving, Elena turned back and smiled. By the way, I'm opening a new community center here. I'd like you to run it, if you'll accept. Emily could hardly breathe. Me? I'm not. You are, Elena interrupted. You're exactly the kind of person who makes a difference. Weeks later, the town buzzed with excitement as the new Ross Community Center opened its doors. At the ribbon-cutting ceremony, cameras flashed and reporters swarmed. Emily stood beside Elena, nervous but proud. When asked how it all began, she simply said, I opened my door. The crowd laughed, but Elena's eyes shone with emotion. Sometimes, she said, one open door can change two lives. After the speeches and photographs, Elena leaned close. Still think you can't make a difference? Emily smiled, her heart full. I think I just did. That night, as Emily walked home, her new home, she looked up at the stars scattered across the winter sky. She thought of that freezing night, of a stranger on her doorstep, of how a simple act of compassion had rewritten her life. In the end, it wasn't the billionaire who changed everything. It was kindness, quiet, ordinary, and freely given, that had turned one stormy night into the start of a miracle. The wind shrieked through the trees, carrying shards of snow that sliced through the air like tiny knives. It was one of the coldest nights in years, the kind that made even the bravest souls stay indoors. But Emily Carter wasn't afraid of winter. Her little house on the edge of Pine Hollow had always been a sanctuary, a place of warmth, books, and the faint smell of cinnamon from her constant baking. Still, the storm outside was unsettling. The windows rattled, the power flickered. Somewhere in the distance, a tree cracked under the weight of the snow. Emily wrapped herself in a knitted blanket and sipped cocoa. It had been a long week, another stack of bills, another letter from the bank, another reminder that her late parents' home might soon be taken from her. She had no one to talk to but the wind and the old clock ticking steadily on the wall. Then, faintly, beneath the roar of the storm, came a sound. Knock. At first, she thought she'd imagined it. No one came this far out of town, especially in a blizzard. But it came again, louder this time. Knock, knock. Emily set down her mug and hesitated. Her mind whispered don't open it. Her heart whispered someone needs help. She chose the latter. When she opened the door, a blast of wind nearly knocked her backward. Snow swirled into the room like smoke. And standing in the middle of it was a woman, shivering, drenched, and barely able to stand. Please, the stranger rasped. I just need somewhere to warm up. Just for tonight. Emily didn't hesitate. Come in. The woman stumbled inside, clutching a thin blanket that looked like it had come from a dumpster. Her hair was soaked, her clothes torn. Emily helped her to the couch and rushed to the kitchen. Within minutes, the small room filled with the smell of hot tea and soup. Emily found a set of dry clothes, an old sweater and flannel pants, and handed them over. Thank you, the woman murmured, her teeth chattering. You didn't have to. Of course I did, Emily interrupted gently. No one should be out in that. After a long silence, the woman spoke again. My name's Lena. I'm Emily, she replied, offering a small smile. They sat by the fire, sipping tea in silence. The storm howled outside like an angry beast, but the cottage was a world apart, quiet, safe, filled with the crackle of burning wood. Lena's eyes wandered across the room. It's cozy here, she said softly. Feels like home. Emily chuckled. It's old, creaky, and too small. But it's all I have. Lena studied her. You live alone? Yeah, parents passed years ago. No family nearby. Emily hesitated, then added, I teach at the local school, but they cut back my hours. So now I mostly try to keep the roof from falling in. Something unreadable crossed Lena's face. You help others for a living, huh? Emily shrugged. Guess so. Not sure it's helping much these days. Lena smiled faintly. More than you know. They talked until the fire died low. Lena shared little about herself, only saying she'd lost everything. Emily didn't push. She could see pain in the woman's eyes, the kind that comes from betrayal or heartbreak. They both knew the comfort of silence. Before heading to bed, Emily brought another blanket. You can stay here tonight. We'll figure something out in the morning. Lena gripped her hand. You're kind. Most people would have slammed the door. Emily smiled tiredly. Kindness doesn't cost anything. When Emily woke the next morning, the storm had stopped. The world outside glistened under a pale sun. She walked into the living room, and stopped. The couch was empty, the blankets neatly folded. Lena was gone. On the table sat a note. Greater than, thank you for saving me. I won't forget this. Emily sighed. She looked out the window and saw footprints leading down the snow-covered road, disappearing into the distance. Something inside her ached. She'd wanted to help more, to make sure Lena was safe. But perhaps this was how it was meant to be, two strangers whose lives had briefly crossed on a cold winter night. She didn't know it yet, but that one act of kindness had set something extraordinary in motion. That evening, Emily sat alone by the fire again. The house felt emptier than usual. She thought about Lena's quiet voice, her tired eyes, and that faint smile before she left. Something about her didn't quite fit the image of a homeless wanderer. There was a grace in her movements, a strength in her words. But Emily brushed it off. Stop overthinking, she muttered, curling back into her chair. She had work tomorrow and bills to face. Life would go on, storm or not. Outside, the sky was clear, and the first stars began to shine. Emily didn't notice the black car parked a few miles down the road or the man making a phone call from inside it.